Hey, you guys have, Don, you have brought on some private schools over the last year or so. Why is that?
You know, we hear from our politicians, and I said this before. We hear from our politicians. They're always talking about seniors, and they talk about children, and what they're going to do and what they're going to do. And I just thought, you know what? I believe in private education. My granddaughters are both in private school. One is in daycare now, but she will be at OLG when she gets old enough, and my other granddaughter is there now. And I thought, well, look, we're this is our show, and if we're talking about community issues, then let's promote private education. Let's do something about it other than just sit and talk about it. And I think that these schools have a lot to offer, a lot more than the public schools do. It's amazing how all these top politicians send their kids to private school, and yet they tell you that your kid has to go to public school system. And I'm not saying that there aren't good public schools. I'm just saying that basically I do believe that when you're paying for a private education, they are getting a lot better of an education than when there's no discipline, there's no structure, and they go to school and show up. We were talking out in the hallway here earlier about all the private programs that OLG has to offer, and let them explain it right now, because they do offer a lot of things that were outside the typical math, reading, writing programs.
Paula Kolbus is with us. Paula, what do you do at OLG again?
I'm the fifth grade teacher.
Fifth grade teacher of what? Everything?
Everything. It's a self-contained classroom.
It's a self-contained classroom. So you're teaching religion,
Yes, absolutely.
science, and math.
Correct.
That's a pretty wide range of topics during a day. How do you melt all those together, by the way?
Well, all of our curriculum is driven by the state standards, so it's a great guideline in developing our curriculum and our daily lesson plans. And I use a lot of supplemental sources too, as well as the textbooks. And we have technology in the classroom as well as smart boards. So that's an interactive tool to help the students become more familiar with the subject matter. And it all works.
So technically, with the ability to reach across many different subjects, you could have easily fit into that little red schoolhouse they have there on Kennedy Avenue over there in Hessville Park. Do you ever see that thing?
Yes, I have.
One room, one teacher, all subjects. There it is. But how long you been with OLG?
This will be my 6th year.
Your 6th year. Now, what's so cool about going to OLG?
Well, first, it's a very spiritual atmosphere. When you walk in the door, you can feel that sense of peace. It's like a large family. It's a smaller school. Our classrooms range size, the range of the classroom is about 15 to 22 students. The staff works very well hand in hand together, and the teachers reach out to the parents as well as the students. So they get a very, we're in constant communication, and the students get the best education because of that. Also, the school, the mission statement of the school is not only to provide the kids with a quality education, but to encourage students to live Christ-centered lives. And we want them to strive to be contributing members of society, especially in the areas of service. So the students get a great education, but they also develop their religious foundation, and then they can use that spirituality, their faith, to be a moral compass as they move through the different phases of their lives.
So when do you start?
We start at 7:30.
No, I mean, which day you start? Yeah.
August 22nd. Our school day runs from 7:30 to 2:30.
Start at 7:30?
It's an early morning for us.
7:30 to 2:30, and it starts on August 22nd.
Correct,
So,
yes.
And also we have Paul Mullaney with us here. You've had a number of kids go through, right?
I've got 6 children, Jim, and the last 2 are enrolled and are in 7th and 8th grade this year at Our Lady of Grace.
Oh, wow. So at some point there won't be a Mullaney in OLG, and it's been quite some time since that's happened, right?
It'll be a sad day.
Next generation will come.
Hey, if I could embarrass Paula for 1 second, if you don't mind, Jim, you had just asked about the how do you do it from the multidisciplines or whatever, and I'm just gonna embarrass Paula for a minute here and ask her what percentage of your students last year passed the math part of the I-STEP?
100%.
And what percentage of your students passed the English I-STEP or the reading skills?
100%.
Okay. So she didn't know I was going to ask her that, but I just wanted to show you about the cross discipline.
She didn't have to shuffle through the papers for the answer to that question. well, Paula, I have to come back to this because it's been, I guess, very rarely do I kind of get on a topic and carry it through, but we carried it through for a good portion of the spring. That for some reason the public attitude towards teachers and teachers in general over the last 3 months of last year's school year, in the media especially, wasn't always bringing out the most positive things about teachers. And I kept trying to remind people that people are, teachers go into that classroom on a regular basis to teach your kids, and if you've never done it, it's really kind of hard to judge from the outside. But how do you're going into the classroom every day, same kids, same kind of material and so on. How do you stay motivated?
Well, the kids motivate me. I love my job, and oftentimes, my school day extends beyond the school hours as well as with the other teachers, because we love the kids, we care about them, we have a very dedicated staff, and our school has a lot of opportunities for the students to excel academically. We have a lot of programs that a lot of schools don't have, and they're free. We have a math club every Tuesday for the 5th grade students, and we handpick peer tutors in the middle school to assist in this program. So students are getting an extra hour of math a week, and they're having fun doing it. And they're also, the older kids are learning how to be leaders, and the younger kids are learning in a fun atmosphere. We also have 2 reading clubs. 2nd grade the reading club is led by Miss Gersafi, and the students meet once a week, and they read a series of books. Last year they read a series of books that was actually published by an Our Lady of Grace alumni student. They corresponded with this author through the mail, and they even had the opportunity to Skype with the author. So it was phenomenal. And last year also, 5th and 6th grade had a book club. We developed a reading room just for that purpose. That'll be utilized by all grades. And we read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. The subject matter was the Holocaust. It was wonderful. We had many in-depth literary discussions. The students learned about the literary elements, such as foreshadowing and similes and metaphors, but they also learned they learned the church's stance on social justice. And they had a poetry contest where they actually wrote poems either from the viewpoint of a Holocaust person in the camps, or of a person standing from the outside looking in at the suffering. We had a Holocaust survivor, Marion Webster, spoke to the children, and it was incredibly moving.
Well, obviously, it sounds like you've got a lot of passion for what you do and so forth. So, have you noticed that in the last maybe 6 months, people haven't necessarily been painting teachers with the positiveness that they should be?
I don't think the public understands what goes into it preparing for a school day. When the parents entrust us with their children, we have a lot of responsibilities, and it's not just to teach them, it's to care about them, it's to love them, it's to find the areas that they're challenged in and help them and keep their self-esteem intact. It's also those who are gifted to come up with a more rigorous curriculum for them. It's to help them socially, it's emotionally. To make a child feel comfortable and valued in the classroom is a skill, and it takes a lot of time and effort to develop that relationship. First and foremost, a teacher has to have a relationship with a student in order to get them to reach a little higher. If a student believes that you believe in them, they're going to not be afraid to reach a little higher and work a little harder. And if the parent joins that relationship, it's a win-win situation. I have kids who stay after school for tutoring 2-3 times a week. They extend their school day. Some of them will stay in for lunch and say, Mrs. Kolbus, I don't get this concept, and I'll help them. How many kids do that? This book club occurred, these 2 book clubs. Mrs. Gersafi's was after school, and she had 100% participation. Mine was during their lunch recess. How many kids will give up recess to study the Holocaust? I had 100% participation between 2 grades. It's amazing. And I think the public needs to see that side of teaching. It's just not about opening a book and reading to the kids and assigning homework. It's dedication to kids because they're our
Jill, I'm
future.
going to tell you something as a grandparent, and that's another reason that we went on the air doing this was I know a lot of our audience comes to us and talks to us about retirement. And one of the things that John, Stephen, and I have talked about, what better way for a person to invest your money than in your family? And I want to tell you something from a grandfather's point of view. I've got a granddaughter going into second grade at OLG. For 2 years, she's been there, kindergarten and first grade. I've seen her kindergarten teacher show up in the rain on Saturday morning to a Highland soccer game, and all these kids will run and hug her because they think Mrs. Drake is the greatest thing since cotton candy. Now, how many teachers will give up their Saturday morning to come out in the rain to see past children? And I've seen their first grade teacher there too. My granddaughter last year had a costume party for her birthday party. Both her first grade and her kindergarten teacher showed up in costume, and these kids are just—they love them. I mean, they love them after school, at their in their playtime. So there has to be something right going on there.
And once again, we're talking as part of First Senior Financial's paid half hour. They're basically giving up their time to talk about OLG. Don Heckwine's got grandkids that are associated with OLG, and I guess that's the initial contact there. We also talked to St. Paul's Lutheran, and I think
Trinity Lutheran.
And Trinity Lutheran also. And with that in mind, Paul Mulaney's also he's here as his function as a dad. But he also works for the Times, has been there for a lot of years. And but Paul, I just got to ask you, now has the voucher system affected either OLG or Bishop Knoll yet? I know you've had a lot of kids at Bishop Knoll also.
It's active. Our Lady of Grace has been approved as a school choice scholarship
It has been
program.
approved.
It has been approved.
And just to back that up, I think people need to understand that a school has to go through a process to be able to take the vouchers, correct?
Yeah, you have to apply through the state, and the state will grant grant approval. These schools that are being accepted, they're non-public schools, so it could be religious based or just private schools, but and they in every case these schools have been accredited by the state for years anyway. I mean, they're following the same accreditation standards that the public schools follow. So Our Lady of Grace is accepting vouchers. And I cannot tell you where that stands right now in terms of the impact. We do have a new principal starting this fall, and so we have been through a little bit of transition in the office, but we're excited about the prospects of this coming year. Mark Topp has joined us for this year, and with many years of experience in the diocese, and this is the first change in principal's position we've had since the 90s. So it's been a very stable environment, and so Our Lady of Grace is accepting vouchers. I can't tell you much more. I can tell you how it works, but I can't tell you what the impact has been.
Just kind of, I think, around the horn, everybody's kind of feeling their way into this. Like, what's the impact? You really don't know what the impact's going to be on Bishop Knoll. You can estimate how many vouchers you're going to get and this and that, but you really don't know. And I think that's kind of how a lot of educators are, especially the private school educators, are like, I don't know. We don't know if we're going to get any or going to get stampeded or what. I mean, would you say that's pretty much what people are feeling their way through this right now?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for the non-public schools, the private schools, and in this case here we're talking about the Catholic schools. I think it's an opportunity for them to benefit from it. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, people like myself, my tax money has been going to public school systems, even though my children have been in private schools, and now although I cannot personally qualify because it's only open to students who have been at public schools the previous two semesters and moving over, it's a chance now for their tax dollars to go to work for that benefit.
Just as an extension of education, I mean, you're a Hammond resident, so you've qualified for the, what do they call it, the tuition reimbursement plan here in Hammond? Is that
are you talking about the college-bound?
College-bound, yes.
Yes, my children have qualified for that.
Cool. And that's a big factor. I think it's like $8,000 now, right, a year for these kids? Or?
Well, That's the program that the city has in place for college tuition if you qualify coming out of high school and you own a home. I believe the board that oversees that for the city of Hammond, I believe, has raised it to $9,100 this year, and that is because they do it in sync with the tuition rate at IU Bloomington. That's the standard that they use.
And you have a kid down there now, right?
I do have a daughter who will be starting there this fall.
And did you move in over the weekend?
Did I move into?
Did you help her move in?
That's coming up next week.
That's next weekend.
Yeah,
All right. So we got Paul Mullaney and Paula Kolbus in here, along with Stephen Searing and Don Hackwine. This is normally First Senior Financial, and we talk a lot of politics and a lot of the economy. We'll get to that right at the end. I don't know if you guys had anything special you wanted to highlight, but Paula, it is back to school time.
Yes, it is.
And you've been doing this a while, so what do you tell parents right now? What should they be doing to get their kids ready?
Well, start getting them to bed a little earlier, so they're used to going to bed earlier, and then they can wake up so they can start and be ready to start at 7:30.
I hope my kids were listening.
Hopefully the kids did their summer packets, because we give them summer assignments. Hopefully that's been done and completed. You might want to review them with your kids and make sure you get their school list, and so you can get their supplies that they need, and get them excited, because it's exciting. It's exciting to go back and learn.
Go to school or go to bed early and get your summer packet done. That's about it. Now, you wear uniforms at OLG, right?
Yes, we do.
So it's not like everybody's out there combing through the Old Navy reopening